Hello and welcome to the Acrylic Portrait Painting Challenge Masterclass, lesson number 1, gridding your canvas. Hi, my name's Mattphilleo and I'm excited that you're here and you're ready and willing to learn how to paint a portrait in acrylic. And we're doing a monochromatic this time. It's going to be exciting. We're painting a portrait of a person praying at a table, a very compelling image with excellent lighting and a really emotive kind of a feel to it. So looking forward to teaching you. You're amongst friends. In the past 2 portrait painting challenges, over 700 artists took these challenges and painted a portrait, many of them without little or no experience. You can do the same thing. I'm excited to teach you step by step the process, starting with gridding your canvas here in this lesson, moving on to doing a sketch, and then starting with the glazing technique using acrylic. Now, if you haven't already signed up for the Portrait Painting Challenge, I invite you to do that. It's completely free. When you sign up, I'll send you a welcome kit. It's something you can print off, a PDF file, and that'll have everything you need. It'll have the step-by-step lessons emailed to you. It'll have the reference photo with the grid that you can print out, the supplies list, and then the palette layout guide, so you know how to lay out all of your colors on your palette without them getting muddy. You can sign up at realisticacrylic.com/acrylic-portrait-painting-challenge. I'm also going to have a link in the description of the video and then also in the comments as well. So just click that link. You can sign up for free, and we'll be doing these series of lessons here. We'll be rolling them out 1 week at a time. So anyway, look forward to teaching you. All right, let's get started here. I'm going to open up with a word of prayer and we'll dive right into our first lesson. Father, I ask a blessing on this challenge in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord, for the students who are taking this challenge. Thank you that they're willing to overcome any fears or just feelings of insecurity about doing a portrait. And just because they've actually taken that first step, Lord, they're succeeding. And I just pray that you'd help them to know that. I pray that you'd help me to guide them in this lesson here on how to do this class and how to show them how to grid their canvas excellently, get a firm foundation set up for their sketch and for their painting. So Lord, I just give this class to you. I want to do it to honor and to glorify you. Bless all the students. Keep them in good health. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's get started here. So I have a 16 by 20 canvas set up here on my easel, and if you have the supplies list, you've already done some shopping and you would have gotten your canvas and your paints and your brushes. But again, if you haven't done that, just go ahead and sign up for the challenge and download that welcome kit with all the supplies. So I have the 16 by 20 canvas set up horizontally, and we want to make sure that it is a horizontal orientation for this painting. That's going to be important. So I'm going to get started in just a moment here. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay out the grid. And so you'll want to grab a ruler. I have an 18-inch ruler. You might have a 24-inch ruler. Whatever ruler you have that's long, without being a yardstick. A 36-inch yardstick is pretty difficult to maneuver. But we're going to use this 18-inch. It doesn't quite go to the end of the canvas, but that's okay. The next step then is to get your pencil sharpener. You want to have a good X-Acto pencil sharpener. An electric works great. If you don't have that, you can get a Prismacolor that you just twist and turn, but don't use a regular everyday pencil sharpener. They'll crack the wood on these colored pencils. Make sure you're using a Prismacolor colored pencil, not a watercolor colored pencil, because that will be problematic. This is just your regular Prismacolor Premier 30% warm gray. That's what I'm using. And if you have something along those lines, 20%, 30%, that'll be great. So we're going to start just by going from left to right, and we're going to make some notations. You want to bring your ruler all the way to the edge of the canvas as close as you can. I'm going to zoom in here. And try to line that up, and we're going to mark these off with 2-inch increments. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on, all the way to the end of the ruler. Now I have 16, and then 18 takes me to the end. We want to make sure we have this lined up parallel too. That's important. If we don't, that can throw off the lines just a bit. So try to make sure the bottom of your ruler is as straight as possible with the canvas. I just had to draw a couple of extra lines there to make sure I have that correct. Okay, so we've got all those markings here. We'll add one more marking to take us to the end, and it actually does line up pretty well. So we don't actually have to mark there because that goes right to the 2-inch mark naturally with the end of the canvas. Now we're going to move on to the left-hand side, and we're going to mark off again 2, 4. So we're doing the verticals now, and you should be able to see that. Maybe I need to zoom out just a bit so you can see the top. Okay, so we're on the top part of the canvas, and again working from left to right, marking off those 2-inch increments. And as long as you go from left to right on both the top and the bottom, everything should line up perfectly. Everything should line up perfectly. Okay, I just want to double check here on the bottom. Yeah, it looks like I might have just put that mark in the wrong place. Okay, that is actually 2 now. There we go. I wasn't reading the ruler correctly. Okay. 18, and let's see, double check here, 2, 4, it's always good to double check yourself, make sure your lines are accurate. There we go. Okay, and now let's do our verticals. We did the horizontals, let's do the verticals. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Just get the line on the ruler, and again, it's important to make sure that you have the actual bottom line here of the ruler. It's not always the actual edge of the ruler. It can be the line that they have on the ruler. If I just zoom in here, you should be able to see it. So not necessarily the edge. It's a little difficult to get it in here. Okay, see how you have that line marked above the edge of the ruler? So don't necessarily use the physical edge of the metal, but that actual line right here is what you want to use. Okay, that might be different for your ruler, but again, I'm going to bring this to the bottom, and we're going to mark off 2-inch increments here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And so that takes us almost up to 16 on the top. It's a little shy of 16 on the top, but that's okay, as long as we're keeping it constant here. And I'm just going to move this in a little bit from the edge. Because my ruler is 18 inches, I'm going to actually put the lines not right at the edge here, but 2 inches in on this right hand side. 2, 4, just try to make sure that the ruler is parallel with the edge. If you have it askew, that's going to really give you some funky grid lines, and that would not be good. Okay, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Okay, so with that, then we can actually connect the lines. I'll just need to sharpen my pencil here. And I realize I don't have it plugged in. Oh, sometimes it's how it works. Okay, get that plugged in and get the pencil sharpening. Gotta have a nice sharp lead. Okay, So with a sharp lead, you'll be able to get some really precise lines. Now we want to connect these together. And so it's just like it seems. You line up everything, working from top down. That's usually the best way to go. I'm doing the horizontals first. And I'm just going to continue these lines through just by kind of going like this. Okay, we're going to meet up these next lines. And just continue it on. Okay, the next set. And we just basically continue this process all the way across. And I'm just going to basically line it up here, line up the ruler with this line to continue it on, if that makes sense, just so we have a nice straight line here. Okay, we're just going to make sure. It's always good to, when you line it up, to have your ruler just a little bit below your markings. That way when you actually mark the pencil on it, it should be right on top of those markings. Alright, we'll put another set right here. And we'll get another set. Just continue to match that up. There we go. Let that go all the way across. All right, that's good. And now we're going to do the ones running up and down. Let's sharpen my pencil though. Yeah, if you get it to a nice point like this, that really helps. Okay, I'll just hold my ruler to the left of the line. That works best for me. And again, you want to see those lines as you hold the ruler next to them. Okay, and when you're actually doing this, it'll be easier to do it if you were to set this on a table rather than your easel. I'm just doing this more for demonstration purposes because it is a little harder to hold a ruler up like this. So just keep that in mind. You might want to actually do this on a table. It'll be a lot easier on your shoulders that way. All right, we'll just continue the process. If you use some pressure, it might throw off your line a bit. All right, and then we're going to, just to match up with the bottommost line, okay, and then we'll get this one to match up here. It's just slightly off. Okay, I just want to double check, make sure, yeah, that one is too, yeah, it's just got to be close. Okay, so now this is what it should look like. At this stage, you can see some of these lines we've got here and how that all looks. Just kind of move this around so you can really get an idea of how it should look. 2-inch grid. So we're going to zoom back a little bit. Move this up. Zoom out just a bit more. I just want to make sure I have this to show the next part of the process. Okay, so you should have a total, let's see, let's count these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you should have a total of 80 squares, 8 vertically, 10 horizontally. So double check yourself just to make sure. I know it seems like a no-brainer, but you always want to double check yourself, because I've had it happen before. Students have had it happen before where they don't have the right amount of squares in their grid, and then when they actually go to sketch their portrait, the proportions are way off. So just do yourself a favor, make sure that you got those grid lines at 80, 8 by 10. All right, because it is 2-inch squares, and we're doing a 16 by 20 canvas. So just, simple math, dividing it in 2. Okay, so on this particular sketch, if you look at the reference photo I gave you, we actually have an additional set of squares in the center. I'm just going to pull up the image on my computer here. So we have an additional set of squares in the center where we're going to actually subdivide these 2-inch squares into 1-inch squares. And that's just for the detail part of the portrait. I think that's important because that's where we have the face and we have the hands. And so we want to just make sure that we really have that detail locked in here. So we're going to subdivide going down from 2 squares on the top and then 3 on the left. And this additional double set of grids it's going to comprise, let's see, 3 from the left, and it's going to go 4 squares wide. 4 squares wide. So it's going to go about this far. It's going to fill in this area right here. Right here. So what we want to do then is just start over from 3 squares. Okay, 1, 2, 3, count there, 1, 2 down. I'm going to start right there. And then we're going to subdivide that, and we're going to mark off 1-inch squares. So just set up your line and your ruler. Make sure you have it marked on the actual line and not the physical end of the ruler, so that you're actually counting off 1 inch. And we're going to mark off 1 inch here, another one. So you'll be able to double check and make sure you actually have your grid pretty accurate. Okay, so I just added the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. It's just subdividing that. And then let's go down, let's see, what did I say? 3 squares? 1, 2, 3, no, 4. 4 squares, so we want to have 2 from the bottom. So right down here, just count 1 square, 2 squares, and then we're going to add in that additional set here. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, just odd numbers, I guess. All right, so now we've got that set of lines, and then we're going to do the other set, and we're gonna, we could work from top down in this case. It just feels more natural. So in this case, we'll go 1, 3, and again, make sure you've got that line of the marking of the inch, not the actual physical end of the ruler, lined up with your grid. Okay, 3, 5, 7. Same thing on the other side. Don't work from the bottom. If you work from the top on the left side, work from the top on the right side as well. 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay. So now with this then, everything should line up. I just want to show you what these markings look like up close. All right, you should be able to get a kind of a take on this here as we zoom down. You should be able to see some of those markings and what they look like. Okay, all the way to the bottom. And now, let's go ahead and connect the dots. We'll just zoom out a little bit more here. Okay, and then we're going to connect these lines. Get that additional set of squares. I'm going from bottom up. It seems like the most natural way to do it. You could go the other way too, top down, but this feels like it'll give me the best sort of line. All right. There we go. Now we'll do the other side, top down. So we're doing this other set. Flip it around, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so just trying to make sure they all match up here. And by doing, just a portion of this in 1-inch squares, I think it'll keep you from getting inundated with too much visual information. It's really easy to lose your place when you have 1-inch squares over the whole thing. I found that with some of the students, it's just too many lines and you get lost. So by having just the 2-inch squares, on the top and bottom, you'll be able to find your place easier. Then when you get into this detailed section, you'll be able to really work on that area and get that locked in a lot better. So I think, let's see, did I do this right? 3, no, I actually, I did another set, didn't I? How about that? How about that? So this section here should not have the double lines. See how easy it is to get lost with this? Well, it's okay. Even if you make a mistake with this, you can easily remedy that. So I want to show you it is easy to remedy any mistake, and it's part of life, so no worries. I'm going to erase this set right here, this double set. And I've actually never done this before with a double set of grid lines, so this is kind of new to me. I've always done either complete 1-inch squares or 2-inch squares. I've never done like an inset like this. I just don't want you to get thrown off course, because the reference photo does have that inset right in the center. So this will be all right. We're just going to erase everything, and in your supply list you should have a nice white eraser that you can use. Yeah, we might just have to use a little more pressure and just redraw some of these lines here. That'll be okay. All right, let's just reconnect these lines. Just reconnect these 1-inch grid lines. There we go. When we're working on this painting, this will not be the first mistake that I make. I make a lot of mistakes in my paintings, but the main thing is to overcome, just to perseverance, to not give up, to find ways to overcome the mistakes. And when you do that, it makes you into a better artist, because you can actually do that then for the next time. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be doing this same mistake the next time I would do this. I'll learn from it, so it's all good. All right, so we've got those squares now. Yeah, that's really the way it should be. We should just have that inset there in the middle, and that would be it. Okay, so now that that's remedied there, this is what you should have when it's finished. So that's what it'll look like. And again, you're going to have 8 by 10, so it's going to be 8 squares up, 10 squares wide, with a 2-inch, or I should say 1-inch grid in the middle. All right, so 2-inch squares, 1-inch squares in the middle, and that just fills in this area 4 squares wide with a margin of 3 squares on either side, and then 2 square margin on the top and the bottom. All right, so that's what this whole set will be. So I hope that all makes sense for you. And at this stage, now that this is done, what we want to do, our next step will be to seal in the grid. All right, so to seal in the grid, you want to take a mixture of gesso. So from your supplies list, you should have a mixture, or you should have a container of gesso. I use Nova Color. I love Nova Color, and I've mentioned that in the supplies list. You can order that online. I do have an affiliate link if you'd like to order it that way. It does give me a little bit of a percentage of the sale. It doesn't change your price at all, but it does help support what I do here at the school. But anyway, I use this gesso, and it's high quality, so make sure you're using high quality gesso. You also want to make sure that it's all stirred and mixed up, and so in this case here I'm going to just shake this quick. Just make sure that you don't have any stuff that's not mixed. I mean, otherwise what happens is the binder of the acrylic will separate from the pigment and it's not going to apply evenly. So you do want to make sure you stir it. Okay, so you're going to put a little bit in this condiment container, this little food container. And then you'll want to add some matte medium, and not matte varnish or satin medium or gloss medium. You want to make sure you're using matte medium. So Liquitex is a good brand. I buy Nova Color matte medium by the gallon, and then I just use this container and pour from the gallon into this because it's a lot easier to use. It's just a pint-sized container. So we're going to take some of this and we'll put in an equal amount. So this is what I have in this container of gesso so far, and we'll put in basically an equal amount of matte medium, and we'll just stir that together. You can use the heel end of a brush to do that. You could use a whisk. I did have a whisk here before, but I'm not able to find it at the moment. My studio is a little bit messy. Yeah, that's just something that I have to work on, getting a little more organized. But anyway, so I'm stirring this and making a nice mixture here of the gesso and matte medium. Equal parts of each, 50-50. Okay, so you're going to take that, and what you're going to do then is use a 2-inch brush if you have a 2-inch brush. I might not have it on the supplies list, so I'm going to, I think I'll use a 1-inch flat here. And let's just break this open here. So this is a wonderful artist brush set. I'm not selling anything, just helping you out. You can get these at Hobby Lobby, and they have a lot of brushes all together in a set. So check that out if you don't want to buy them individually. I'm just going to use this this brush here. Ideally, we'd want one that's a little larger, but I just want to demonstrate based on what I have. So this is a 3/4 inch flat, or you could use a 1-inch flat as well. What we're going to do is just basically work from top down, and you always want to brush in the direction of the canvas. All right, so brush in the direction of the canvas. So if the canvas were oriented vertically, then you would want to brush that vertically, but since it's oriented horizontally, we're going to brush it horizontally in the long direction of the canvas. And so what we're going to do is just basically seal in this grid, and we're going to kind of mute it down a little bit. Now don't use a ton of pressure because you don't want to lift up the colored pencil, that gray colored pencil. Just a moderate amount of pressure will work. And yeah, a larger brush would work better. I just want to demonstrate using a smaller brush because this might be all that you have on hand, and I probably should change my supplies list to incorporate a 2-inch brush. If you have a 2-inch brush though, something like this, it's going to be a lot faster for you. But it can be done with a 1-inch or even a 3/4 like we have here. And we're just basically sealing it in, smoothing out the lines. Okay, so we just run that brush across. Not too much brushing, just keep a wet edge. So you always just want to work from one space to another, kind of like house painting. And that's something I learned while I took some classes on selling paint when I worked at a hardware store. I took a class from a paint manufacturer and learned how to properly roll paint on a wall and how to cut in with a brush. And I found that to actually be pretty helpful for doing paintings for fine art as well. But keep that wet edge, and that's going to really ensure that you don't have blotchiness or, you know, weird brush strokes or anything that would throw off the look of the painting. All right, so just keep that flow there, and just sometimes you have to duck down a little bit and just double check and make sure that you didn't miss any spots, because it's hard to really see what you're doing when everything is white. The white gesso matte medium mix on top of this canvas. All right, and we're going to just continue here, going across. Now you might be wondering, I didn't touch on that at the beginning of this lesson, but what kind of canvas can you use? Any 16 by 20 canvas will work, but it's better to get one that's a little higher quality, so don't get one that's just in those multi-packs. You want to get one, if you can, that's a little higher quality, like a Frederick's, or there's some other brands that are good too. But just make sure it's an artist grade canvas, not a student grade. If you have a student grade canvas, you can still use it, but an artist grade canvas has a little bit of a thicker weave to it, and usually they have more gesso on there, more primer, and it'll give you better results. But I wanted to make this pretty simple, so in the past I've had students use really inexpensive, cheap canvases from multi-packs. Then they have to put on like 3 layers of gesso and sand in between coats. And I wanted to avoid that, you know, in this class. I just want to make this as simple as possible to get you to the painting stage. So I think this will work. And now we have everything sealed in here. And at this stage here, what you can do is let this dry. If your lines ended up being a little bit dark, you could go over this with another layer, but just make sure this dries completely. You should give it at least a few hours, depending on your humidity levels. You can touch it, make sure it's dry to the touch, and make sure it's not cool. If it feels cool, then that means that there's actually moisture underneath that's trying to evaporate, and that's why it feels cool. So just touch it, make sure it's dry to the touch, it's not cool. Couple of hours, it should be good to go with another layer if need be. So basically it should look like this, where you just faintly see your grid lines, and that's it. But again, if they get too dark, you can always go on with another layer. Some of you might be asking, can I just use graphite pencil instead of colored pencil to do my grid lines? Answer is yes, you can, but I found from experience graphite does tend to smear more. So if you're putting on this seal coat of the matte medium and gesso, you might get some smearing of it. The other thing too is other of my students, you know, have tried different things like not sealing in the grid. But I would recommend that you do seal in the grid and just try out this technique first. And then, you know, later on, after you've had some experience, if you want to try some other things like not sealing in the grid, you can do that. The reason why we seal in this grid is so that when you begin your sketch and you actually, you know, work that in, and if you have to erase some areas, you make some mistakes on your sketch, then when you erase those areas, you know, that are potentially some mistakes, you won't erase the grid lines with your drawing. All right, so putting up this seal of the matte medium and gesso basically makes this grid separate from your drawing. So if you have to erase anything on your drawing, it's not going to disturb your grid. Okay, so anyway, this is where we're at, and this is how it should look when you're finished. I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can take a look, because it's a little easier to see when it's zoomed in. Alright, so you can just get an idea of how that looks, and the camera's having a little bit of difficulty focusing on it because it's so faint. But this will give you an idea of what it should look like when it's gridded off. All right, so now we're going to zoom back out. And if yours doesn't quite look like this, if it's too dark, then go ahead and do another layer on it. And that's going to get it to look just like how it should. It's art. It's not a science. So if it ends up being a little dark or a little light, no problem. The main thing is that you can see the grid line. As long as you can see the grid line, that's all that matters. All right. So this is where we're at. So thank you so much for taking part in this class, and I'm looking forward to teaching you in the next one, and that's where we're going to actually do the sketch. Now the sketch is the foundation of the painting. If you can get an accurate sketch, you're going to be light years ahead in being able to do a beautiful portrait in acrylic, and I'm excited to be able to teach you that next step. Again, thank you so much for watching. Sign up for the challenge. Go to the link in the bottom and you can get started there, get everything you need. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave it in the comments below. Get a hold of me in the Facebook groups. I'd love for you to share this challenge with your friends. And you can just take that link and just let your friends know about it on Facebook or via email. Get some people painting with you, because that's going to help you to have that camaraderie and that support. Join my Facebook group, Realistic Acrylic Portraits, for more support and just to be able to post your painting, get some feedback from me and the other artists. But for now, I'm going to let you go, and I look forward to seeing your progress on this, especially when we get into the sketching stage. Thank you so much. God bless, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.